Hi there. Welcome to Lunch for the Soul. Do I ever have a special edition for you today? I have an incredible family who has been through so much because of a really scary accident that actually happened on Rice University's campus. So let's bring them on in. We have Eduardo Barreda and his family, his parents joining us. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having us.
I'm so happy to see you. And I know that you all are enjoying some time together over the holidays. So welcome. And I know you're enjoying that because, Eduardo, you're usually here in Houston, but for now you're home in Oklahoma,
Yep, up here in the cold.
huh? A big difference, I'm
Mhm.
sure, right? Well, let's talk about what happened to you because, again, you're a Rice University student, and wow, did you ever suffer a really scary accident? Tell us what happened.
So this was back in April of 23. I think it was the last Friday of classes of the end of my freshman year. There was like a burger grilling event where I lived. Then after that, me and a few friends decided to go out partying that night. Walking back about 1 in the morning, speeding car I guess didn't see me and landed me right in the hospital.
And you suffered some very, very serious injuries, didn't you? Let's talk about that because with the brain injury, you don't remember hardly anything that evening, right? And then for days to come,
For about a month afterwards, nothing.
just like it never happened.
Hmm.
I cannot imagine how scary that must have been. Well, let's bring in your sweet parents who decided to join us, Humberto and Lourdes. Thank you for being here. I
Oh,
just
for
know
sure.
as a mom, especially of a college student, how horrifying that must be. You were up there in Oklahoma, you have to get to Houston. First of all, how did you find out that he was in this accident?
Well, we received a call earlier on the Saturday morning. We thought was a scam, to be honest with you. So I told my wife, call Eddie, let's make sure he's okay. But he wasn't. It's a little bit blurry. I think I spoke first with the magistrate at McMurtry. He told me that he was in an accident and he gave me a phone number to call with a code. Uh, so I called the hospital, went up where he was, uh, and a nurse, Heidi, she tried to explain to me, and I think it was her second week in the job. She tried to explain to me what was going on.
Mm.
I understood right away that he suffered the TBI, and at that point was just on my worst nightmares happened. We just were not thinking after that moment.
And I'm sure at that point, are you having to, Lourdes, are you packing bags and figuring out how to get to Houston as fast as you can?
Yes, he was in the phone and I was already in the computer booking our flights and just throwing everything in the suitcase, and I was lucky to find a direct flight that afternoon, or I mean that morning, even that
Mhm.
morning, because we arrived in Houston
Uh,
like
three,
two or three
3 o'clock.
o'clock.
Wow. I can't even imagine being able to think straight enough to be able to book flights, to pack your bags and to go. I really can't even imagine. And you get there and you find out that your son suffered very serious injuries. He fractured his skull when it hit the windshield. His ear bones were broken. What was that like to see your son? And I'm sure at that point he was probably on a ventilator, right?
Not
Not yet.
yet.
Not yet.
Uh, the doctors that day and the nurses who were in the front line with him, they were kind of optimistic that he could recover without surgery. Um, uh, they were monitoring his vitals and the pressure in the brain. This is what they were more concerned about. They said that it was underneath a certain number, he wouldn't need more surgeries. They already drilled a hole in the back of his crane to release some of the,
Mhm.
which I understand now is a standard procedure.
Well, and you know what was amazing with all of this is, first of all, Eduardo, you were with friends who immediately started administering first aid to you, but then you were across the street from one of the best hospitals in the country to save your life. I mean, it's just incredible. You were right there. Harris Health System, Ben Taub, everybody knows it. We're talking the highest level in the country that can take care of emergencies like this. And
Yeah, I
so,
couldn't have
how do you
been more
feel that you
glad.
were literally, Rice is literally across the street from them? It's huge.
Yeah, I couldn't have been more blessed, and I thank God every day that
Yeah.
I was, I guess, in the right spot, but in the wrong spot at the wrong
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's a way to look at it. Okay, so your dad had mentioned that they were hoping they wouldn't have to do more surgery than that initial one. Unfortunately, they did. So they ended up doing I believe, a frontal craniotomy. That meant that part of your skull would be gone for a while. My goodness, what a horrific thing for somebody to go through. You're in college, but do you remember that part of it? None of
No,
that either.
Yeah, he was put in coma
Yeah,
just
during that.
when that.
Okay.
Yes.
So you wake up. Let's. So I have a few pictures here that you were so thoughtful to share with me. So let's share some of these. First of all, let me get rid of this so you can see it better. But here you are in the hospital. I mean, I'm sure that it had to be so overwhelming. Do you remember taking this picture, Eduardo?
yeah, that was about a year ago, like
Oh, okay. So that one you remember.
right
We
after they put
we
my
see
skull.
you here. What about that? Do you remember that time?
Uh, Vaguely, I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was like good enough to leave my room without a nurse.
Wow, that had to be a good feeling. But
Emily would take me out to like outside so I could see some fresh air.
yeah. And we see you here and you're just thumbs up. I mean, what a positive attitude. How did you maintain this positive attitude? I know your faith got you through a lot of it.
Uh, it's really the only thing I could do. Being sad and wallowing in misery wouldn't help me with anything.
Hmm. So you
So
just decided to
being
work through
strong
it.
was the only choice.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, you certainly impressed your medical workers. I got a chance to meet up with you at Harris Health System in Taub and got to meet your two of your nurses who took care of you during your darkest hour. We were actually together right there in the neuro ICU, right in front of, this is to the side of, but we were right in the room where they first took you, where they first met you, and you don't even remember all that they did for you. Now, this is the fascinating thing that I think in all of this. So, you actually met up with the nurse on the right side in Target of all places. You had no idea who he was, but he sure knew who you and your family was. Tell me about that, who you were.
Well, that's what it sounds like. To be honest, I don't remember
You don't remember that part either. So
meeting
he sees
Marlon.
you at Target and he's like, wait a second, do I know you? And I believe, was it your brother who said, yes, you took care of him?
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe it. So when they saw you, I mean, you were critically ill. You were fighting for your life. And for him to be able to see you, he was so happy. And then when we met up with him recently, he couldn't believe how far you've come since then. How good does it make you feel
It
that
just
that they remember you after all this time like it was yesterday? That's how you touched their lives.
it just feels so strange because one, I don't remember anything, and two, I didn't exactly feel very inspirational. It was kind of there at my lowest point. There's a good quote I like to think about. It's from Saint John Chrysostom, fourth century saint. He says, "I know no one weaker than myself, but no one stronger than the grace of my Lord." So that's kind of what I felt. It wasn't so much me, but more God working through me.
What a powerful thing to feel and experience. And I think it's important for you to share that with other people because maybe if they've never experienced that, they want to learn more, right? And maybe they'll look more into that and study that. So I think it's beautiful that you say that. Well, you got well enough to head back into class, which I can't even imagine. And when I talked to you, you said that you had to wear your helmet to class. How did people perceive that? Did they ask you questions? Did they just ignore it? And what was that like? Because that would be difficult for anybody, I would think, to deal with.
Well, really, I don't remember any like straight up questions like, "Why are you
Mhm.
wearing that?"
Mhm.
Um, Everyone's nice enough, I guess.
Yeah.
They just didn't care.
Well, you're at a pretty classy university, to say the least.
It was like slowly over time that like
Yeah.
as people got to know me, I would kind of tell them what happened.
And then I'm sure they couldn't believe that that happened right there on your campus if they hadn't heard about it, since it was that very last day of school. They might have already been gone, right? They might not have even known about it. I have to tell you, first of all, it's so incredibly impressive that you're at Rice. That's the most brilliant minds in the world. But the fact that you have gone through this, that you went right back to school in the fall after this happened in the end of the semester, then summer comes. By fall, you're already back to class, didn't miss anything, studying chemical and biomolecular engineering, and your brain wasn't affected by this. I mean, it's just incredible. Now I know that you've had to study harder after it, right? Let's talk about how you've had to make up for any deficits.
Yeah, pretty much. And you said my brain wasn't affected, but it
But it is,
greatly was, and I still
yeah.
feel those effects.
Well, and I guess I say that in that you're able to take those classes. Like I can't even fathom being able to pull that off after a TBI, and you've been able to do it. So what do you do? Do you find yourself studying more? Do you meet with your professors more? How have you made up for that?
Yeah, pretty much had to cut out most of my social life.
You did, just so you could study more.
I'll do homeworks.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
So
spend
yeah, so that
about
affects your lifestyle a lot. How have you
40
dealt with that?
hours a week doing homework.
Yeah.
So it was like a full-time job doing homework and then not to mention studying.
Hmm. What do your doctors say about that? Do they feel like that will continue to get better over time, or is this how it will be for you?
No, yeah, they still got better. It's just they told me that going to school would be like being in rehab,
Therapy.
Yeah,
like therapy rehab.
That's got to make you feel better, right?
So it's just I guess it's almost like a muscle. Just gotta work out and work on it so it gets stronger.
So I
And
know that,
certainly school is one
yeah,
heck of an exercise.
boy, at Rice of all places. Well, I want to hear more about from your parents. It's got to be hard, I would think, to know that he's there. He's working so hard, had to really cut back on social life and fun to get through. How proud, though, you must be that he has chosen to carry on and continue to do that.
Oh yes, we are so proud of him. He's so strong, and wow. Yes, he's very blessed that he has more time to take their exams. If he needs more time to present his homework, so we are very blessed with that. And we were told that he were not able to return to school so soon, but he did, and he really is working hard to go to finish on to graduate on time at the same time that he's supposed. So we are so proud of him.
I just can't imagine how incredible that's going to be. And then one fun story that you shared with me, Eduardo, I love this. So I want to share this picture. Tell me about that. I believe it was a newspaper article that you saw that made this come about, right?
Yeah, it was in the Rice student newspaper. They have like a satire back page, and one of them was suggesting new positions for the college governments, which one of them was CJ number two, since CJ number one is the Chief Justice. CJ number two would be the court jester. I took a picture of that. I sent it to my college president. I told him we need to make this a reality, and I'm willing to do it. And I haven't had that many shows yet, but I'm working on it and working on the makeup.
I mean, the fact that you still have a sense of humor through all of this, I think is such a healthy attitude about it. Do you find that laughter helps?
There's a good quote from a poem. It says, "When a smile rises, the heart rises too." It's either the heart or the soul rises too.
Hmm. And you find
So
truth in that.
if
And
I can make other people smile with
yeah,
some silly things, you know, that's
well,
good for the
yeah,
mind, body, and soul.
it is so true. And you have a really good support system too, don't you?
That's my friend Jackson who gave me first aid that night.
Wow. Aren't
So
we thankful for him? I'm sure that was very traumatic for him, your buddy, and something horrific like that happens. It was probably pretty hard on him too, huh?
hmm but it's brought us closer. So
Oh, well, that's always nice. And then this is a great picture of you all. I love this.
and that on the left is my roommate, freshman and sophomore year, Andrew,
Hmm.
was volunteering at Ben Taub freshman and sophomore year. So
Wow. Where you were treated. And then this is a fun one.
yeah, that's when I got to meet the official Chester Cheetah at an event with PepsiCo.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you have such a bright future ahead. What's to come for you?
I graduate in a year and a half. My goal is to become a process engineer for oil and gas
Hmm.
and on the design side. And I'm still hoping to go work for ExxonMobil.
Well, put it out there in the universe and hopefully those dreams will come true, right? We just did. It's too late to turn back now. Eduardo, when you take a look at this photo and you think back to our time spent with these people who clearly care so much about you through Harris Health Systems, Bentab Hospital, how did that make you feel that day to see them, to see how much they've been cheering for you, how thrilled they are that you're doing so well?
Well, I was one really like almost in shock to be there
Mm-hmm.
that day again because, like I told you, exactly a year before that day, I was back in Benton getting my skull back.
Yeah.
So a year later, I'm sharing my story about as healthy as I can get.
Yeah.
And I really consider my nurses to be true angels.
Well, and they were so impressed with your family and how supportive they were. Do you all remember those two nurses that the pictures I showed you? You
Oh
do.
Yeah,
yes,
I
yes.
didn't know if you were in a state of shock back then and it was all a blur to you as well, but you clearly remember.
yes, yes. They were there the very first day that we arrived. And then Haiti was the one that talked with my husband the very first time. So we are very thankful for them.
Oh, I bet. Well, you could just feel the TLC and the love that they had for your son. And just as a mom, it made me feel really proud and happy that they had that relationship. Eduardo, moving forward, for anybody else who goes through crisis in life, what have you learned from this? What knowledge can you share of how to work through it? You're at one of the hardest, most challenging universities in the country with a traumatic brain injury, and you've found a way to overcome it, which, young man, I hope you know what a big deal that is. I think you do. But how would
Um,
you encourage somebody else to work through a tough time?
I always tell people it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. I was just kind of laying on a bed for 2 months. It was more God acting through me. So that's number one. But anyone else, just I don't know how to say, but trust in God. He has a plan for everyone.
Hmm.
That's number one, and it's always keep your spirits alive.
Hmm.
Um, I was still making jokes even in the hospital.
Yeah.
I can tell you how I was trying to be the funny one.
Yeah, I immediately saw the pipe up and say, yes, that's true. Now, Eduardo, before we wrap, you said you didn't do anything, but you've put your your social life, which everybody knows in college is a really big deal, on the back burner to be able to push yourself harder to study? How do you work through those hard days when you probably just want to be out with your buddies on some days, but you're just, cranking it through the books? How do you do that?
Well, I might be too like engineer minded, but it's just a systems of like equations. Like if I go out with my friends, will the consequences I suffer be enough to justify that? And I can always ask for extensions, but if I do, I'll get behind and just be constantly catching up.
Mm-hmm.
I already had to go through that in the spring of 24. I don't really want to do that again. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just optimizing my life, kind of.
You are something else, and we can all learn so much from you. I am in awe of you, and I just wish you nothing but really good health, for a continuing brain to heal, and for you to have the best 2025 yet. I hope it goes really well for you, kiddo.
No, thank you.
And I want to know when you graduate from Rice, okay? And then hear about that job, that when you get it at your dream job.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time.
I believe that about you fully. You picture yourself and you believe, and your dreams will come true. Well, thank you for blessing us with your time. Enjoy the rest of the holiday break, whatever's left of it. I know there's not much, but take care of you all. Thanks for being here with us on Lunch for the Soul.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
An honor to talk to you all.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Well, that's how you do it, everybody, right there. I feel like I'm going to cry just to see how far he has come and how far he's able to push himself on his own in another state away from his family. I just hope that we can take a bit of his advice to believe in that faith in your heart that can hopefully fuel any fire or any problem that you're going through. It sure has worked for him. Thanks for being here. If you ever want to reach out to me because you want to be featured here on Lunch for the Soul, easiest way to find me is through email, melissa.wilson@fox.com. Otherwise, I hope you'll join me back here, same time, same place next week. Thanks again, and have a beautiful day.